Alright, I'm gonna make a video about my record collection. I know there's a lot of people that do this. I actually found a couple people that I really liked a lot of stuff that they did. There's one guy, Ralph Vieira, I think he's out in Miami, and he doesn't do so many videos about his record collection, but the ones that he does, they're awesome. And he's a big super Kiss fan, which I am, and I just like his personality. I like his take on music, and it kind of inspired me to just do that for my own stuff. And another guy is Mr. Hall of Fame, um, that I just found recently, and I love watching that guy's videos because I really find similarities in our tastes and just his overall view on music in general. And he's a record collecting fanatic. I've been doing this since I was a kid. I have an older brother, fortunately, that got me into it, at the right time, like at the end of the 70s into the 80s. And this is what I got. So I don't have that much. I have maybe about a little over 1,000 pieces. And the way that I have them in order is kind of just the way that I am a music fan. So I'm going to start off with my pub rock collection, because that's pretty much what started punk rock, and that's kind of one of my favorite genres, I guess, of music. All right, so this is Eggs Over Easy. It's kind of the band that started it all. American band, went out to England looking for gigs. This album was produced by Link Wray, which is kind of strange, but they're the ones that went to places like the Tally Ho and the Elgin Club, Hope and Anchor, and just started asking these pubs like, hey, can we play shows? And these little bars gave them a break. This was in the early 70s, and they were playing like a country-esque kind of Eagles, kind of early Grateful Dead, Charlatans type of like folk rock, and that turned into punk rock somehow. And I'm gonna show you, I guess, how I figured that out. It's a good album though. Next is probably one of the biggest English pub rock bands, which was inspired by the Eggs Over Easy, and that's Brinsley Schwarz. And this is where Nick Lowe makes his debut. Actually, he was in a band called the Kippington Lodge before that I think only put out maybe a couple singles, and that was more like a psychedelic kind of like what early David Bowie was doing, late 60s, whatever. But this is the first Brinsley Schwarz album, and this one's kind of country-esque, kind of maybe early Steely Danny, I don't know. It's pretty good intro. It's got a couple good songs on it. Haven't really got too deep into that. This was my first introduction to Brinsley Schwarz. This album's called Despite It All. This is a solid album. The first track on there, Country Girl, it's amazing. It's like just really the perfect little pop country song, I guess. Kind of like Flying Burrito Brothers, that kind of vibe. But really, really good album. Next is Brinsley Schwarz, The Silver Pistol. This is the album that they produced themselves, and it's pretty solid. Sounds really, really raw, and just sounds like you're in the room with them, listening to them record. And you can hear them progress from their first album. This is kind of like a part 2 of Despite It All, the second one. It's really good. And then you got Nervous on the Road, just like so many other bands, as they get from their first to the second to the third album, they start to get a little bit more polished. Songwriting gets to get a little more, I guess, fine-tuned, if you could want to say. But this has some really good cuts on it. This is a good album. And then this was their last one. I think there's one that I don't have by them. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But this is the New Favorites of the Brinsley Schwarz. This has the song "What's So Funny About Peace, Love, and Understanding," which was written by Nick Lowe, but made more popular by Elvis Costello later in the 70s, early 80s, actually, I think, actually. But this is some late 70s stuff. And then it's a collection, Brinsley Shores Golden Greats. Has like 3 really standout tracks on there that were just singles, I believe. One of them was It's Gonna Be a Bring Down. It's a good song. And then there's one on here, Surrender to the Rhythm, which is almost like a late Temptations kind of Motown. It's got like a soul swing to it. Really, really good. Just, I mean, Nick Lowe, showing off how amazing of a songwriter he is. And then another song called Hypocrite, which is kind of like a reggae song. It's weird, but really good, solid album. Next, Kilburn and the High Roads, Handsome. This is, I don't know what the hell his name is. Come on, you know this record. Ian Dury. This is where Ian Dury shows up, kind of turning that country pub rock, which started with Eggs Over Easy, went to the Brinsley Shores, and then he was kind of the first guys that was like giving this place, giving it a little bit of attitude, kind of turning pub rock into punk rock, still playing all the same places like the Hope and Anchor, Tally Ho, all these places, the Elgin. But this album, it's all over the map. Really, really weird songs on it, but it's good. It's really solid. Another band popular on that circuit, the Cursal Flyers. Drummer for this band, Will Birch, he wrote this book. It's called No Sleep Till Canby Island, and it pretty much documents everything that you want to know about pub rock. If you can find that book and you're interested in this genre of music, I suggest you pick it up because it's got everything. It's like a little pub rock Bible. Canby Island, that's where the Feel Goods came from, and Cursal Flyers, and just pretty interesting. Lots of different pieces of information due to record labels and just how the whole pub rock scene started. Basically just all these bands that couldn't compete with the dinosaur rock age. This is when like Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and Genesis, Jethro Tull, Yes, like even the Led Zeppelin, all these bands that were just huge. And there's so many other people out there that were a little bit younger that had something to say musically, and they were never going to be stars. They were never going to be famous. They were never going to probably even make a trip overseas. So they just started doing their thing, making albums in their little towns that they came from, and this is what came out of a lot of it. This is a good band. This is getting into, kind of turning the country rock into like kind of poppy, kind of like power pop. And Will Birch, actually, he later was the drummer for the Records, which is another big power pop band, but it's good stuff. This one, later album by the Cursal Flyers, The Golden Mile. This has their, I think it was the Top of the Pops hit, Little Does She Know, and it's weird. It's almost like a show tunes, like something out of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, like, and they had a really cool like video or actual performance on Top of the Pops where they had all these washing machines and just all these suds, and because some of the lyrics are about running into his ex-girlfriend at like a laundromat or whatever. But it's a good album. It's good. It's got some really good songs, pretty polished as compared to the early one. There's still a few more of this band that I need to pick up, but good nevertheless. And then this one I found for like $2. It's awesome, perfect condition. 5 Live Cursals, just a live record that really documents one of the bands in their prime in the pubs, which is playing in front of, I don't know, maybe a few hundred people at a bar, and everyone in there is just reeling because that's what it was about. It wasn't about money, it wasn't about fame, it wasn't about selling records, it was just about getting up on a small little bandstand and, sweating it out with a bunch of, beer swilling people that were just sick and tired of being broke. Um, but this is a good album, and actually, there's a documentary. It's a 3-part punk rock documentary on BBC Britannica. It's called, that you can find on YouTube, and the first like 15, maybe 25 minutes of it documents pub rock, and you can see live footage of the Brinsley Shores, Ducks Deluxe, a little bit of outtakes of Cursal Flyers. They made a movie called So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star. It's a black and white movie that just documents a short tour they did, which I've been trying desperately to find. I can't find it anywhere, which just makes it even, it's going to make it even sweeter when I do someday, just because it's something weird to have, not because it's worth anything other than just a documentation of a really cool genre of music, which doesn't really have that much, not that many people know that much about it. This is another good one, Bees Make Honey, English band. This is a nice copy, like really glossy cover. I guess it's on EMI Records I'm seeing right here. But this is, kind of Flying Burrito Brothers-y, Little Rocky, kind of, I wouldn't say Doobie Brothers, but, maybe like America, I guess, like something like that. It's pretty good. This band, Ace. Now, this band actually had a hit on this record with So Long. They still play like on the radio now. And this is, I believe, the first time that Paul Carrack appears. He's just a, really good, solid songwriter that did some work with Squeeze, among other people. And, he's just one of those guys that wrote the perfect, like, I guess you would say, dental office song. That, when you're waiting there reluctantly for your name to be called to go get your molar pulled out of your head, this is the guy who's going to make you feel a little better because that song comes on and you're like, oh yeah, I know this song. But Paul Carrack, Ace, it's an okay record. I haven't really got too deep into it, but it has that song So Long on it. Max Marriott and the Meteors. I was really excited when I found this just because there was someone that I knew was a part of the whole scene, and then I got this record and really I had to like struggle to find a song to make a mixtape. Just to have a complete like pub rock compilation, and I don't know, maybe I'll give it another shot, but really not maybe a lower tier pub rock act. And then we got a big one here, Dr. Feelgood. I remember the first time I saw this record, I kept seeing it over and over, and then the cover always struck me, and it would just look like something that I should know. And just by these two guys right here, Lee Brillo and Wilco Johnson, it's like they look at that attitude, like they have that New York Dolls attitude. They have that punk rock attitude. They just look like they don't give a fuck. And I remember like, man, I know that name. I should just buy it. And I picked it up, and it's an amazing record. And I think this is the record supposedly that like, what's his name? Clem Burke, the drummer from Blondie, brought back with him from England and started playing at parties in New York back in the days when the whole CBGB scene started coming together with, Johnny Thunders and everyone hanging out at the Mercer Arts Center and like Max's Kansas City. And, they were basically getting ready to sow the seeds of punk rock, and, it was probably really exciting for all those people. But this was one of the records that kind of helped them figure out what it was that they were going to do.